How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Hidden Explained. Imagine this. You and your twin brother come back to your village with a loaded bag of cash, ready to start fresh. You've got big dreams of opening a new pub, a place where you can finally leave the past behind and make something of yourselves. You spend a ton of money getting everything just right, pouring your heart into every detail. The excitement is palpable as you prepare for the grand opening. Your heart's racing with anticipation. But then, on the very first night, something terrible happens. Something that completely turns your world upside down. The night starts with the usual buzz, a crowd of eager faces ready to have a good time. But by the end of the night, you're forced into a position where you have to kill everyone. Every person who walks through those doors ends up as a casualty of something much darker than you could have ever imagined. What was supposed to be a new beginning spirals into a nightmare, leaving you and your brother with blood on your hands and no way to escape the aftermath. Alright, enough teasing today. We are going to talk about the movie Sinners, but before that, hit the bell icon and subscribe our channel. So let's roll the intro. The film kicks off with a powerful intro where we're told that, according to ancient legends, certain gifted people could create music so pure, so raw, that it could literally summon spirits from the past and future. Yeah, because who doesn't want a jam session with a vengeful ghost? Not just that this mystical music could bring fame, fortune, and, oh, a tiny side effect, it might also completely erase the barrier between the living and the dead. Minor issue? Totally worth it for a Grammy, right? Throughout history, these rare musicians were given titles like Fire People, and other ominous sounding nicknames that basically scream, "Stay away!" After this cryptic intro, we cut to a young man named Sammy, stumbling into a church, bloodied and battered, clutching the remains of a broken guitar like it's Excalibur. Priorities: you're bleeding out, but save the guitar first. True musician energy. Seeing Sammy in this state, the church folk understandably freak out, and the pastor, who we quickly learn is Sammy's own father, rushes to his aid. He starts praying like his life depends on it and urges Sammy to renounce music altogether. "Son, it's either heaven or your Spotify playlist. Choose wisely." Meanwhile, Sammy is having vivid nightmares that suggest something horrible happened the night before. At this point, the film yanks us back in time to the previous day, because obviously jumping timelines is more suspenseful than just telling us straight. Now, quick side note, the story takes place between October 15th and 16th, 1932, so expect lots of vintage vibes and zero Wi-Fi. Anyway, the day before, we see Sammy finishing his chores, then sneaking off to do what he loves most, playing the guitar. And yes, it's in the church. Bold move, Sammy. Nothing screams rebellion like shredding forbidden riffs on holy ground. His father, the stern pastor, absolutely disapproves. He sees music, especially that devil's genre blues, as nothing but a straight up ticket to hell. Imagine thinking your son's biggest rebellion isn't partying, but playing emotionally devastating music. But here's the twist. Sammy isn't just messing around, he's phenomenal. He has real raw talent in blues, a genre born from the heartbreak, soul, and survival of African American communities in the 19th century, particularly in the southern US. It's a music style that's deep, emotional, and frankly, too powerful to be caged by fear. Meanwhile, Sammy's dad is just hoping a good old-fashioned grounding will fix centuries of musical revolution. Blues music, by the way, usually rides on slow tempos, heavy guitar work, and lyrics that cut deeper than a breakup text. It's built around real-life emotions, pain, struggle, hope, the rawest parts of the human experience. Because apparently happiness was just not an option in 19th century Southern America. Many music historians actually call blues the grandparent of genres like rock, jazz, and R&B. So next time you vibe to Drake crying into a mic, you know who to thank. Anyway, back to the story. Now the focus shifts to two new characters, twin brothers named Smoke and Stack. Both are World War I veterans who've recently returned to their village in Mississippi. Before this, they were living it up in Chicago, where they were involved in gangs and, surprise, surprise, made a ton of shady money. Clearly, the American dream had some, creative pathways. With their new fortune, Smoke and Stack want to open a juke joint. For the uninitiated, a juke joint is basically an informal spot where the local black community could unwind with music, dancing, gambling, and of course, a few good drinks. They buy a property from a white landowner named Hogwood, and boy, was he thrilled. By thrilled, I mean he couldn't stop spitting and glaring at them like they'd stolen his lunch money. Even after seeing their massive pile of cash, Hogwood still treated them like dirt. Racism level, 1930s expert mode unlocked. Anyway, once the deal's done, Smoke and Stack start hunting for talent to fire up their juke joint. First on the list, their cousin Sammy, the same guy with the haunted guitar and possible ghost friends. Sammy's tasked with bringing the soul through his guitar and vocals. Stack and Sammy then branch off together to recruit more talent and meet a musician called Delta Slim, a guy who can tear it up on the harmonica and piano. Fun fact, if your nickname sounds like a shady barbecue joint, you're probably amazing at blues. While roaming, Sammy also bumps into a beautiful singer named Parlene, and the sparks are pretty obvious. Finally, a love story that doesn't involve the undead yet. Meanwhile, Stack has a run-in with his ex-girlfriend Mary, who is absolutely not thrilled to see him. Can you blame her? He ghosted her harder than the spirits he's about to summon. Turns out Mary's mom just passed away, and side note, Mary's mom had actually helped raise Stack and Smoke when they were kids. Mary herself is described as kinda white, which is the most 1930s way of saying mixed race without actually being respectful about it. And yes, the film leans heavily into race dynamics to show the brutal reality of that era. Spoiler, it wasn't all jazz and swing dancing. Stack drags Sammy and Delta Slim to a cotton field where they recruit another old friend, Cornbread, as the doorman, aka the bouncer, for the juke joint. Because nothing says you're safe like a guy named Cornbread guarding the door. Meanwhile, in town, Smoke also ropes in two local Chinese shopkeepers, Grace and Bo, to handle the catering and run the food and drinks. Props for diversity points, even if it's mainly for snacks and booze. Later, Smoke visits his wife Annie, and we quickly realize their marriage is hanging by a thread. Most of their fights boil down to one simple issue: the occult. Yup, Annie doesn't just believe in the supernatural, she's actively practicing it. And then because every healthy relationship needs a side of voodoo drama, right? And spoiler, their argument isn't over, it's escalating. Smoke said that he had traveled the whole world during the war, and he had never seen a single ghost till date. Maybe because ghosts don't like getting shot at. On this, Annie said that she was doing some rituals so that the twins always remain safe. But Smoke angrily reminded her that if she knew so much about rituals, then why couldn't they save their little daughter? Way to kill the mood, Smoke. It becomes clear that they had a daughter who died shortly after being born. Smoke still wears the talisman that Annie gave him, because throwing it away would be too easy, right? After arguing, both of them get intimate here. Fighting first, cuddling later. Classic. The story then shifts to a man named Remick, who in a very injured condition takes shelter in the house of a couple named Bert and John. Shortly thereafter, some vampire hunters arrive looking for Remick, but Bert lies to them, saying no one has come to their house. Flawless strategy. Lie to the guys with weapons. As soon as the sun sets, the vampire hunters leave to continue their search. Because obviously vampires respect working hours. Remick, an Irish immigrant vampire, then drinks Bert's blood, turning him into a vampire as well. Hospitality level, lethal. Seeing this, John screams, and the scene cuts, implying that they probably turned him into a vampire too. Screaming always helps, not. Coming back to Stack and Smoke, their hiding worked wonders because finally their jack joint was functional, and today was their opening night. Even though Stack and Smoke were both queens, their personalities were completely different. Smoke was very serious and business-minded, and every party needs a grumpy manager. Stack, on the other hand, was a fun-loving guy with a big heart. Even at the jack joint, Smoke was very strict and demanded that everyone pay the entry fee without exception, because nothing screams fun like strict cover charges. Stack and Annie tried to explain to Smoke that the people in their community work all day and come here to enjoy themselves, so even if they had less money, they should still be let in. Good luck explaining compassion to a walking calculator. Besides Stack and Smoke, Sammy and Delta Slim were performing at the Jack joint. Anne-Marie and Parlene also arrived, while Grace and Bo managed the food, drinks, and gambling sections. On security was Cornbread, who stood like a wall at the entrance. Cornbread, because nothing bad happens when you hire a man the size of a refrigerator. Many customers had also arrived, dancing, singing, eating, drinking, and enjoying themselves. Overall, the Jack joint became a huge success from the very first day. After some time, Sammy starts performing Blues John here, and his song was so true that we could see the spirits of the past and present. Okay, now we're adding ghosts to the mix, because why not? Yes, exactly as we were told in the intro of the movie. This performance was so strong that it even makes the remix attractive. And now, there were Bert and Joyner, along with Remick, as vampires. Turns out ghosts, vampires, and blues make a hell of a combo. That is, as was said in the intro, such music attracts evil. 100% accurate. I bet no one saw this coming. Now, Remick appears from outside with Bert and Joyner and asks for permission to come inside. Yeah, sure, just stroll up to a vampire-infested joint and ask for permission. Remick said that he was just attracted to Sammy's music and would come inside to spend money, enjoy, and sing with his friends. But Smoke and Stack don't allow him in, mainly because he's white and, let's be real, a little sketchy. At this point, Remick leaves but goes a little further and starts singing with Bert and Joyner. How charming. He'll just serenade the vampires outside. Inside the Jack joint, things get wild. Pearline and Sammy get intimate. The party's only getting started, folks. Then Mary gets into a little argument with Stack. Classic tension. Cue dramatic music. Then there's some commotion between Smoke and Sammy. Like that's not going to escalate. After all this, when Mary goes outside alone, she sees Remick, Bert, and Joyner. Ah yes, perfect timing to bump into vampires. They show her gold coins and offer them in exchange for entry into the joint. And because vampires carry gold like they're on vacation. But while talking, Remick's saliva starts dripping, indicating that he wants to drink Mary's blood. Who knew saliva could be this creepy? Mary senses something is wrong, but before she can escape, Remick attacks her. Well, that escalated quickly. So yes, now Mary has also become a vampire, and in the next scene, she enters the bar after taking permission from Cornbread. Clearly, Cornbread's security standards are questionable. Then she seduces Stack, because it's never a good night unless a vampire's involved in your love life. As soon as Stack and Mary get intimate, Mary bites him, killing Stack. Well, Stack had a good run. Then Smoke comes in and seeing all this, shoots Mary several times. Because what better way to solve a vampire problem than with bullets? But Mary runs away laughing, as if the bullets have no effect on her. Maybe try aiming for the heart next time. Now, Smoke was very emotional after seeing Stack finished, and he asked the others to send everyone out of the Jack joint. Of course, now he's emotional. Nice timing. Annie immediately explains that this is mostly vampirism. Gee, you think. That's why even the bullet didn't cause any harm to Mary. Yeah, so much for the bulletproof vampire theory. Smoke didn't want to believe Annie, but he couldn't deny what he had seen with his own eyes. In the middle of all this, his security guy goes to drink cornbread, and Remick attacks him there, turning him into a vampire too. Because who doesn't love a snack and a vampire conversion at the same time? Now, after some time, Cornbread Jack comes outside the joint and asks for permission to come inside. Ah yes, the classic "can I come in" vampire move. And it immediately points out how vampires can't enter the house without permission. Since Cornbread is asking for permission, it means he's been converted. Oh look, Cornbread's getting bold with his entry requests. Cornbread immediately changes the topic and says that he at least wants the money for today's work. As Smoke extends his hand to give him the money, Cornbread tries to bite his hand, but Smoke dodges and attacks Cornbread instead. Let's just say that wasn't the handshake Cornbread was expecting. By this point, it was not possible to trust anyone because no one knew who had become vampires. In a room full of vampires, trusting your security guy, bold move, Smoke. Cornbread was still dancing even after being shot. Apparently, even vampires can't resist a good beat. Meanwhile, Stokes, who had died, comes back to life as a vampire. But before he can attack anyone, Annie throws pickled garlic juice on him, which strangely burns him, and he runs away. Pickled garlic juice, the new vampire repellent. Now, Annie explains to the rest of the survivors that vampires can only be killed with a silver or wooden stake, and they can also be repelled with garlic. Somehow, garlic is both their weakness and a condiment. Strange. In fact, no vampire can enter any building without an invitation. Classic vampire rules. Apparently door etiquette matters. Who knew? Here, Annie gives Smoke a Tasman so that he can protect himself, and she also asks the people present inside the flood to eat garlic pickle so that it can be proven that all the people inside are humans. Garlic pickle. It's not just a food, it's a test. Now, many people had flooded inside Jack Joint. The customers were dancing, but they were sent out. Looks like the Jack Joint is turning into a party no one can attend. Awkward. Well, they were all attacked by vampires and turned into vampires, dancing and singing with Remick. Because what's a vampire party without a little bit of a boogie? In fact, when Grace's husband Bo went out to get the car, the vampires drank his blood and turned him into a vampire. Bo didn't even make it to the parking lot. Talk about bad luck. So now we can say that there were only a few people left who were still human. Smoke, Annie, Sammy, Delta Slim, Perlin, and Grace. Let's give a round of applause for the survivors. Oh wait, never mind. In fact, whatever humans were left were still inside the jack joint, while all the vampires were waiting for them outside the joint. Nice, cozy little standoff. Vampires on the outside, humans on the inside. Classic horror movie setup. Smoke and the team's plan was to spend the night there, and before morning, force the vampires to run away because they mostly can't survive in sunlight. Great plan, except for the whole staying up all night part. Then Remick comes to talk to them and starts convincing them that they should also become vampires. Why not? Who doesn't want to live forever as a bloodsucker? Remick clearly states that vampirism is the right way for them because there is no discrimination of any kind here. They will get immortality, freedom, and there's no racism of any kind. This is getting oddly progressive for a vampire. Remick also reveals that John Burt was actually from Hogwood's local clan, and their plan was to come in the morning, finish off Smoke and Stack, and snatch the money from them. Wait, so racism and money laundering? This plot just keeps on giving. This shows how racism is rampant and how Smoke and Stack were about to be attacked just because they were black and had made money somehow. Because nothing says good idea like turning into a vampire to deal with your racist problems. In fact, we viewers can understand one more thing here, that the vampire who turns another vampire can access their memory, so basically a free pass to your whole life. No thanks. It was only when Remick was able to see Join and Bird's memories that he learned of this. The memories were probably more entertaining than any reality TV show. So, Remick's basic point was that Smoke and Stack are going to disappear tomorrow morning and society will never respect them no matter how much money they earn. And society's tough, but is vampirism really the answer? So, it would be better to adopt vampirism instead. An immortality plan that involves drinking blood? Sure, why not? Well, Stokes had already become a vampire, and he's very happy with Mary, who is also a vampire. Some people find happiness in the weirdest places, but Remick wanted to turn Smoke and whoever else was left with him into vampires. At least he's offering immortality instead of just the usual join me or die speech. Now, the offer was tempting, but Smoke and the others didn't accept it. In such a situation, Remick said that he only wanted Sammy, after which he would leave them. Sammy? Looks like someone's got a favorite. Actually, there was such magic in Sammy's song that it could move even the old and new spirits, and this is what impressed Remick a lot. Sammy's got the kind of power that even vampires respect. Maybe he should start charging for concerts. Yes, she wanted Sammy, but of course these people do not hand over Sammy. Because what's a good horror story without a little bit of stubbornness? Which indicated that a full-on war was about to happen. Get ready for a showdown, folks. Here, Grace is extremely angry about Beau's death, and salt is rubbed into the wound when Remick says that he will attack Grace's daughter, who is currently at Grace's house. The classic I'll attack your family move. Always a crowd pleaser. Hearing this, Grace loses her temper and challenges the vampires. Grace is not having it. I think she just went full mama bear mode. Now, the vampires who received the challenge can come in as it is a kind of invitation. That's a loophole I didn't expect. Who knew vampires were so into formalities? And then a full-blown war really begins here. It's go time. In the melee, Annie, Grace, and Delta Slim are all killed. The body count's rising. In fact, Delta Slim sacrifices himself to save Sammy, Smoke, and Parleen. He went out like a hero, I guess. Nomari, who is already a vampire, is devastated by Annie's death and runs outside in shock. This is why you don't mix love, death, and vampirism. This was very sad because Stack had bitten Annie, making her a vampire as well. Awkward. It's like a family reunion, but with more biting. And in such a situation, Smoke had to insert a wooden stake inside Annie with his own hands, which was very emotional. Nothing says tough love like staking someone you care about. So after this, Sammy and Parleen try to run away from there. Can't say I blame them, but Remick and Stack surround them midway. Surprise? You didn't think you'd make it out that easy. Smoke also arrives there, and then a brutal fight takes place between Smoke and Stack. Who knew Smoke had it in him? Time for some serious fisticuffs. Meanwhile, Sammy and Parleen confront Remick, and the real battle begins. During the fight, Parleen is bitten by a vampire, and before dying, she begs Sammy to run away to save his life. Talk about a final request. Sammy also tries to escape in the car, but Remick blocks his way. Well, that's a cruel way to ruin someone's getaway plan. Here, all the vampires were standing with Remick and Sammy was about to be finished. Classic villain move, just waiting for the last moment to gloat. But at the last moment, Sammy picks up his guitar and breaks it on Remick's head. Nothing like some rock and roll to save the day. And mostly, Sammy's guitar had a silver plate that smashed into Remic's head. It's like he knew the vampire killing rules all along. This doesn't cause Ramek to die, but it causes him a lot of pain. Ouch, not exactly a fatal blow, but enough to ruin his day. In fact, we also see other converted vampires writhing in pain. The vampire uprising just hit a serious snag. Now, before Ramek can retaliate, Smoke arrives and finally finishes off Ramek with the wooden stake. Classic Smoke, always arriving just in time to ruin a vampire's day. A few seconds later, the sun starts to rise, and all the vampires are burned to death. Not a great way to go, but it's the vampiric equivalent of a solar-powered barbecue. If you remember, Smoke had fought with his brother Stack, and Stack was a vampire, and in that fight, Smoke was almost about to kill Stack. You know that fight had some serious family drama, but we are not shown whether Stack is actually finished. This is where the suspense really kicks in. So yes, if you have a question in your mind about what happened to Stack, then well, you'll get clarity on this in a short time. Stay tuned for a shocking revelation. Meanwhile, Sammy, who is exhausted and sad, returns to his father's church. Sammy's on a journey of his own, but it's not exactly the peaceful homecoming he hoped for. Now friends, this is the same first scene of the movie which I had narrated to you initially. A full circle, baby. Sammy's father, who is a pastor, asks him to leave music and choose salvation. The classic parental advice to give up the dream for the real thing. Anyways, Smoke tells Sammy to run away quickly because Hawkwood and his clan will be arriving here in the morning. Escape plan in motion. No time to waste. Sammy runs off and Hawkwood and the clan arrive shortly after. Uh-oh, here comes trouble. Here, Smoke confronts them alone with guns, etc. Because why not face a whole vampire clan alone? Smoke's got guts. In fact, he also kills everyone. That's one way to handle things. Aldo himself is badly wounded in the battle, and in his last breaths, he sees a beautiful vision of Annie and his daughter, an emotional last-ditch effort to go out with a memory. And in the end, he dies due to his injuries. And just like that, Smoke's journey comes to a heartbreaking end. But Sammy refuses, picks up his guitar, and walks out of the church. Sammy's heart belongs to the blues. That means only the handle of the guitar was left. Goodbye to an era. The handle symbolizes the last piece of his journey. The film ends here, and we're left with the haunting aftermath. So friends, this was the story of the movie Sinners, and here the story was quite simple. The plot isn't complex, but the themes hit hard. But still, this film is one of the best films because of its cultural references. For sure, the movie isn't just about vampires, it's about deeper themes, and how the issue of racism has also been shown here. The real monster in this movie? Society. So viewers, what do you really think of this movie? Drop your opinion and stick with us until the next horror movie.